Of mayhem in central Beirut. For the first time since protests began, police fired rubber bullets against demonstrators. More than 40 people were injured as clashes dragged on into the early hours of Sunday morning. It was the worst violence Lebanon had seen since anti-government demonstrations broke out 2 months ago. Witnesses say it was sparked earlier on Saturday when dozens of masked men began attacking security forces on the fringe of the protest camp. They were reportedly angry at the way anti-government protesters had lashed out against leaders of Hezbollah and Amal, both Shiite movements. Hours later, more demonstrators gathered outside Parliament, leading to a clash with riot police. The upsurge in violence comes just 2 days before Lebanon's president is set to hold talks with different political blocs to name a new prime minister. Until now, political groups have been unable to agree on a new candidate to replace former Prime Minister Saad Hariri, who stepped down 2 weeks ago. Protesters have been calling for a candidate that doesn't have links to established political parties. But political groups like Hezbollah are deeply entrenched in Lebanese politics. They hold sway over dozens of ministries and are opposed to relinquishing them.
Violence flared in Beirut on Saturday during Lebanon's first anti-government protest in months. Demonstrations had been ongoing since last year, but the coronavirus pandemic brought the country to a standstill, with the government imposing a lockdown in mid-March. But anti-government sentiment was alive and well yet again on Saturday, with protesters clashing with Hezbollah supporters and police, leading to 48 injuries, according to the Red Cross. Security forces fired tear gas while demonstrators looted and threw stones. Lebanon has been rocked by a series of political crises in recent years. An economic crunch brought on an unprecedented cross-sectarian mass protest movement in October, which forced the government to resign. But the new administration has failed to tackle the country's manifold problems, including economic turmoil which existed before the coronavirus pandemic. Now, the country has an unemployment rate of 35%, staggering inflation, and 45% of the population is in poverty.
What's happening, good people? Jeff C. here. I'm sure by now you've heard about this just absolute horrific event that happened in Lebanon, Beirut, a city that a country that's been in economic freefall and suffering really badly before this all happened, sort of thing. Massive amounts of corruption. You know, an economy that was in free fall, basically. And here you have this, I mean, it's like a small nuke going off. A lot of people speculated that it is a nuke, but the government itself is coming out and saying it was a cache of ammonium nitrate that went off. And so a massive fertilizer, you know, I don't know how many tons. We'll take a look at it, some of the details in a second here. You've probably seen this. I've got a video here off of YouTube which kind of slows down the whole thing. So we'll watch it here together and we'll get into some of the details here. You do see a mushroom cloud sort of phenomenon emerge. And you can see the aftermath here of the buildings along the port here where the whole explosion went off, and just give you an idea of the scale of the blast. This is probably at least a few hundred meters away, or maybe even a kilometer away, sort of thing, and it's just everything's been smashed in.
To worry about Iraq, not Iran. I knew why, because I'd been through the Pentagon right after 9/11. About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who had used to work for me, and one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." I said, "Is it classified?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me."
I do pray you're all well. I really do. But this came across my spirit as something that you need to see. No matter what the press tells you or what the official story is, it appears that they're going to tell us that there were fireworks stockpiled in this central location of Beirut, where the main port is right there. So it would be the smartest place ever to store enough fireworks to explode your port. This is not a fireworks explosion, folks. This is the kind of thing that you're going to begin to see happen to those places who do not cooperate. What better way to just bring in martial law and all manner of new normalcy than to blow up half of a city? These are not fireworks. Similar to those used at the World Trade Center. And who was behind the implosion of the World Trade Center? Oh, it was an art student project on the exact floors that the so-called planes hit on 9/11. And yes, they were straight from Israel. And so when you look at this,
What? What?
Again, my heart goes out to everybody right now in Beirut. This is just unbelievably awful. But, I mean, the government itself is coming out and saying they know what it is, sort of thing, and a bunch of people have been arrested. So I'm not going to come in and try to speculate who exactly is to blame for all of this. It's just awful what's happened here. So we'll play a little bit more here of this.
تعبيت بهيدي السيارة لابس الكاس عورت ايدي ورجلي بس ماشي الحال الحمد لله كتر خير الله بس انفجار مش طبيعي وحياة الله مش طبيعي كان انفجار.
Holy moly. Yeah, you can see that this is it. Looks like it's a good kilometer or more away from, I'm assuming the explosion happened right over here, sort of thing, but you just see the utter devastation. Now they say latest that I've heard is 135 dead, but it's probably way more than that. And a lot of people might have just been atomized, right, sort of thing, just disintegrated because of the blast or being so close to the blast, sort of thing. So.
And now to a somber milestone in another case of homegrown terror, the 20th anniversary of the truck bomb attack on a federal government building in Oklahoma City. The devastating blast is still incomprehensible.
It was 9:02 a.m. when a truck bomb tore through the Murrah Federal Building.
We interrupt briefly to tell you of a major explosion in Oklahoma City in a federal building.
The devastation was hard to comprehend. 168 killed, 680 injured, and another 324 buildings damaged or destroyed.
لن يمر من دون حساب. سيدفع المسؤولون عن هذه الكارثة الثمن. هذا وعد للشهداء وللجرحى. هذا التزام وطني.
كل شيء ازاز نزل علينا ما فهمنا اول شيء شو هي بعدين سألت دغري قالوا لي البور ما يعني اللحظة كان شوك على شي 3 دقايق ما عم بفهم يعني بلش ينزل دم من راسي هيك طلعت مش الحال شفت عالم من سابق اكثر مني بلشت ساعدها
أول مرة يعني أكيد شفت حفلات شوي بس مثل اليوم ما بحياتي خفت هيك.
Just like 9/11. Anyway, I thought this was worthy of sharing. This is the type of thing that's coming. This is no accident. Lebanon has been a thorn in their side for a while, and this will allow them to just swoop in and change everything in their favor. Anyway, I pray you're all well. I truly do. Peace and grace to all of you. Many fish.
Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord, and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God,